New videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. So if you want to see how to catch mice, rats, squirrels, chipmunks, moles, voles, and gophers, stay tuned.
Alright.
Now the second reason...
What are we watching next? Bird tier list. Okay. As a connoisseur of birds, I think pigeons are honestly S tier. I think pigeons are so underrated as birds. Like, unironically, pigeons are so underrated as birds. Because no other bird has the reach a pigeon does. Pigeons literally evolved to live side by side with humans, which is the smartest thing to do, right? Is it not? Actually, pigeons are triple S tier. They are way too good. They need to be nerfed.
Birds are one of the most popular playable classes in the game, with a huge number of successful builds and tons of cool strategies. However, some of these strategies have clearly been more successful than others. So today we'll be going over the bird tier list to see which bird ranks highest. But before we get into looking at specific bird builds, let's do an overview of the basic attributes and special abilities the bird faction has access to, as well as a quick rundown of the history of the bird faction.
Oh shit, pop off, king!
So birds are one of the newer factions in the game, joining the game's roster during the latter part of the Mesozoic expansion. They began as an offshoot of the dinosaur faction that was specifically adapted to arboreal gameplay, but when the devs dropped the Cenozoic balance patch, these small avians were the only dinosaurs not to be hit by the banhammer. Fast forward to today's meta, and birds are one of the most successful factions in the game, owing this success to a handful of powerful, unique abilities, in addition to the obvious flying attribute. First of which is their beak. Now, beaks were not an entirely new ability for the reptile player base, but birds went far deeper into the beak skill tree than most dinosaurs ever had, with many bird players opting for extremely specialized beaks to give them an edge in specific...
Isn't it kind of crazy how birds are simultaneously some of the most intelligent animals on the planet while also being some of the stupidest animals on the planet? Like, chickens are so unreasonably stupid. Like, it's actually crazy how dumb a chicken is. But, at the same time, what is that? What's the one bird? It's like the gray... it's like the gray African macaw or something. That bird is as smart as a 5-year-old. And crows. Crows are so intelligent, they can do multi-step equations. Or multi-step problems, not multi-step equations. Like, that's crazy. Birds are so fucking cool. I love birds.
Specific scenarios. However, even the basic beak offers plenty of advantages. While their lack of teeth does mean that they deal...
You wanna know what animal is not fucking based? Crabs. I hate crabs. Look at this motherfucker. He's so ugly. He's so stupid. Second of all, he's really stupid. Third of all, this motherfucker is weird. Dude, they will rip their own arms off and shit. Crab ripping arm off. Crab amputates his own claw.
But this time the action does not follow.
Look at this shit.
The booby parents counterattack. Even the crab...
Oh, they got him on that one.
...is insufficient defense against the rapid-fire thrusts of the booby's powerful beak.
Bro, he's getting fucked up hard. No wonder they're so stupid. They must get so much brain damage from taking fights like this. Dude, they can't get in though, not gonna lie.
Unerringly, the booby's beak has found the chink in the crab's armor.
Oh my god, that sound effect is so fucking trash.
The booby's
Oh, dude, that gets me.
in the crab's armor.
Ugh! Some people will look at this and say that's a cool animal. I look at this and I say that's a fucking stupid animal. Why is part of your ability as an animal the ability to regrow limbs? Just don't lose limbs!
Reduced damage with their bite attack, birds can be far more accurate with their pecking attacks, enabling them to hit weak points or secure grabs on smaller targets, such as the thin hurt box of a snake. Beaks also offer moderate protection, potentially reducing headshot damage and nullifying imprecise counterattacks.
That motherfucker's
Beaks also
crazy,
offer some of the
dude.
best stab type damage in the game, which, when used accurately, can deal massive damage on crit. Beaks are also excellent tools for dealing with parasites. In fact, they're so good that oftentimes other, less dexterous players will party up with bird support players in order to have a better matchup against parasites. Feathers are also a unique and powerful trait exclusive to birds that provides excellent cold protection without causing the user to become too over-encumbered to fly. Feathers also offer pretty substantial defense against crush-type attacks, which is especially important to birds because of their hollow bones trait. Hollow bones are another ability meant to synergize with the flying playstyle.
That bird just died
Now, a
from
common
that?
misconception is that bird bones are hollow in order to reduce equipment load, but actually they're hollow in order to let bird players fill them with air, which grants them a massive boost to their maximum stamina. Without this, it'd be extremely tough for a bird to fly for any significant period of time. The trade-off, of course, is that a broken bone not only deals serious damage, but also potentially reduces the player's maximum stamina by a huge margin. So a bird player will need all of the blunt damage defense it can get. And speaking of blunt damage, the bird's lower bone density means the bird's own blunt force strikes, like wing attacks, also deal reduced damage. The top tier bird builds are the ones that can best capitalize.
I don't know, man. I feel like the point of that attack is to not damage you,
Also deal.
but to scare you. Like, think about it. If, like, imagine you had this coming at you. Wada! 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 That shit's scary.
Reduced damage. The top tier bird builds are the ones that can best capitalize on the strengths of their class
hit it, I
while
guess.
mitigating potential weaknesses. That about covers the basics, so let's get into the tier list. At the bottom of the tier list we have two flightless bird builds, both with essentially the same glaring weakness. These are the kiwi and kakapo. Kiwis are hilariously part of the same faction as ostriches, emus, and cassowaries. For some reason they opted to give up the flight ability, but didn't use the extra available skill points to spec into gigantism like the rest of their squad did. The result is a build that can literally only exist on island servers where there is no active mammal player base, aka New Zealand. The kakapo is a flightless version of the parrot, and although parrots are undoubtedly excellent bird builds, the flightless weakness is too glaring to ignore. Due to invasive species like rats and cats establishing a presence on island servers, both of these flightless bird builds are seeing major declines in their player base, and I would not be surprised if they all ended up switching mains. Flight is just too strong an ability to pass up.
Yeah, that's kind of
Which
sad.
brings me to the next builds on my tier list. So I see what these builds were going for. Being giant could potentially make up for the lack of flight, but in practice this didn't quite pan out.
Ostriches? Ostrich? Is that how you say it? Ostrich? Did you just say ostrich? These birds are dumb as fuck. Like, they're actually retarded. I said it on stream, I said the R word. They're stupid. Okay? The whole
Now-
thing about putting your head in the sand comes from ostriches, okay? They're dumb. Get over it, losers. I'm done talking
While
about
these are
this.
technically the strongest birds in terms of base power and defensive stats, for their weight class they are woefully underpowered. They're one of the few megafauna builds that can be taken down by cheetahs, when they should be able to completely annihilate cheetahs with their powerful claws. Their huge weak point presents a lot of opportunity for counterattack too, so if they ever get too bold, they're setting themselves up for a tough loss. Lastly, the fact that they are forced to nest on the ground forces them into an even more vulnerable position than most birds, as ratite eggs are extremely valuable as loot. Objective defense is not an easy task even for high-tier builds, so for ostriches, emus, and cassowaries, this is a huge hurdle. Next on the tier list we have the hummingbird. This build spec'd purely into mobility and just about nothing else, and as a result is the only bird build
If
with
I
full
could grab a
360-degree
hummingbird,
movement, similar to a
I would grab
dragonfly.
it.
This, combined with its
Like, so
extremely small
easily.
size,
I think I could actually grab one of these things, like, very easily. I'm an expert at killing flies. And along with killing flies, I'm an expert at grabbing things. And I think I go... Dude, I could do it, I swear to God.
the hummingbird to
Especially
very
wasn't
quickly
expecting
change
it.
direction mid-flight, allowing it to easily dodge attacks and fly around obstacles. More importantly, it allows the hummingbird to access nectar, which is an extremely valuable source of energy that's normally inaccessible to birds, since birds are usually too heavy to land on flowers and not agile enough to access nectar mid-flight. This all sounds great,
What was
but
that
the
bee
hummingbird
doing?
also has two very serious weaknesses. The first is pretty obvious. They have no combat prowess at all, and any attack they fail to dodge will send them right back to the character select screen. But in addition to that, the
What
insane
the
energy
fuck?
cost of their flight ability combined with their
What the f-
screen. But
Oh
in
my
addition to that, the
God.
insane energy cost of their flight ability combined with their total lack of fat storage means hummingbirds will run out of stamina very quickly if they can't constantly find food. To me, this is a high-risk, high-reward strategy where the risk far outweighs the reward, so I have to place them in F tier.
Yeah, I can see that.
At the bottom,
Pigeon is D tier? Pigeon is D tier? Are you stupid? Are you fucking stupid? Why would you rate pigeons D tier when they're probably the most populous bird? They probably populate more of the earth than any other bird. And there's more of them, probably. Probably. Why would you rate a pigeon D tier? Don't you... What? Bro, get the fuck out of here.
on
Get
D
out
tier,
of
we
here.
have the pigeon. The pigeon build doesn't really have any critical flaws, but they're held back by mediocre
What the
stats.
fuck?
In particular, the pigeon is sorely lacking in any combat-focused stat, like power or defense.
It doesn't matter, because 99% of things that see a pigeon won't kill it. This is like no. I know exactly what this is like. This is like making a tier list for the wilderness. When 98% of RuneScape is played inside of normal RuneScape, you're not actually going to the wilderness. So how does that make any fucking sense, man? Dude, get the
They do
fuck
best
out
in
of
cities
here.
where their
Get out of
excellent
here, man.
navigation ability grants
Pigeons
them an
are
extra bit of
OP.
safety by nesting among high-rises in loot-rich locations. But even in cities, pigeon players tend to be the main source of XP for higher-tier predators. Plus, if you're just looking to play a bird build that's good at looting cities, there are better options available anyway.
You're retarded. You're so
The
stupid.
Peacock build is another generally understated build, with high HP but little else to rely on. It does, however, have one of the highest intimidation proficiency bonuses in the game, gaining a
Well, that
massive
shit's
buff
kinda
to all intimidation checks
mesmerizing,
when its
not gonna
Eye Spot
lie.
Feather ability is activated. As impressive as this ability is, the Peacock's actual attacks do very little damage, so any player able to resist being frightened will have a pretty easy win. The Peacock's diamatic display also blocks vision behind itself, making a stealth approach by a third-party attacker extremely easy. And while they can escape
He
by
got away,
flying,
though.
the feathers of a peacock are so heavy that getting airborne takes a bit longer than most birds, which can be the difference between dodging or dying when under attack.
Fucking rip, man.
The Flamingo is a bit of an AFK class. Very minimal skill is actually required to pilot this build. They opted to spec into the filter feeding ability, meaning all they really need to do to gain
These birds are
experience and progress their
fucking
character
stupid.
is pick a random spot in the lake bed and start
Okay, half of birds are fucking based. The other half look like this, and I think these are stupid. I will not defend this. I may be a political anti, but I will not defend these fucking birds, okay? These birds are stupid, okay? They have a stupid nose, they have a stupid neck. I would snap that bird's neck right in half!
digging around with their beak, scoring free wins against things like snails and shrimp. However, when faced with a challenge from any player anywhere near its size, this build totally falls apart. They rely on water to impede the approach of predators in order to give them time
Is
to
that a
escape when
hyena?
attacked. However, this doesn't always work. Their pathetic defensive stats mean they go down in 1 or 2 hits, and their slow flight startup means that oftentimes players will have time to rush them down
There's like 5,000 of them. Let's do a head count. 1, a 2, a 3.
and their slow
No,
flight startup
there's like
means
so many of them. He's gonna get a kill on this. Like, what are you talking about, bro? This is such a bad tier list. Dude, Tierzu is the worst animal tier list YouTuber on YouTube.
oftentimes players will have time to rush them down even when they're in
God.
the water.
This guy's fucking stupid,
This is
man.
an easy build to rack up a bunch of experience with, but also a very easy build to defeat if you know their weaknesses.
That thing is still alive. I feel bad for it, low-key.
Ah, the humble chicken, often compared to the T-Rex to exemplify how far the dinosaur faction has fallen. While I disagree with the implication, I don't disagree that
Rip.
chickens are indeed a low-tier build. While they aren't anywhere near as totally helpless as the kiwi or kakapo, they're still a barely average statted bird that lacks the ability to fly for any extended distance. They can certainly hold their own against most similarly sized opponents, but with poor escape options and no unique abilities, this build faces an uphill battle against most opponents. Well, okay, I shouldn't say no unique abilities, but to be
They
honest,
breed like motherfuckers. The reason chickens are actually the main, like one of our main sources of protein, is because they were from this, like, I think it was Southeast Europe, right? And in Southeast Europe, one out of every, like, I think it was like 25 years, there'd be a really big harvest, and the chickens would eat so much, they would breed so much, and then they're like cicadas in that way, right? Well, not cicadas. Well, yeah, kind of like cicadas in that way, where they would just like become like so populous out of nowhere, right? And then somebody, like, traders saw this, and they started feeding chickens so much, so much, and they keep breeding and breeding and breeding and breeding and breeding, and I think they're different in that way
Fast
from most other
respawn rate
birds.
kind of backfired on them due to humans using the factory farming strategy. Next in C tier we have the Vulture build.
I agree with
the
this one.
tankiest variant of the Raptor subclass. A good tank build needs to be able to accomplish two things. The first is area denial, which Vultures do quite well. A few of them can easily lock down a carcass, one of the most contested points of interest you'll ever see on the map. They can do this because of their large size and acidic projectile attack. The other thing a tank must be good at is shrugging off hits, and this is where Vultures fall short. Their thick feathers easily shield them completely from smaller attacks, but because of their hollow bones, blunt fours can easily crush their defenses and take them down.
That one on the left got so lucky,
Vultures
dude.
fall short. Their thick feathers easily shield
That
them
guy?
completely
Hold up, you can't see where I'm pointing.
off hits, and this is where Vultures fall short. Their thick feathers easily shield them
This guy, he got so
completely from
lucky.
smaller attacks, but
He's
because
up
of their
there
hollow
now.
bones,
Dude, he got so lucky.
blunt fours can easily crush their defenses and take them down in only a hit or two. So while they can defend a carcass from hordes of smaller scavengers, they don't have much counterplay towards bigger, more
What a
aggressive
baby bite.
brawlers.
The command post is now under hostile control.
The Woodpecker build spent the bulk of their evolution points optimizing and perfecting the peck attack, both in power and efficiency, with one goal in mind: to be able to hit insect players through cover. Burrowing is one of the safest, most effective ways insect
That was
players
so
can avoid
stupid.
combat. But the Woodpecker absolutely demolishes this strategy. One of the main advantages of this strategy is that having a powerful beak that's highly effective at drilling through wood also just means you've got a super sharp beak that's highly effective as a general purpose weapon. One of the main disadvantages of this strategy is that pecking at wood gives the woodpecker's location away, alerting more powerful predators to its presence while it's in the middle of pecking.
Is it really that loud? If we were at war, I would think this is a gun. Yeah, I would 100% think it's a gun. This thing looks so stupid. Is he waiting for something to come try to attack it? Come on, do something interesting already, bro. Is he gonna get something on this one? What a waste of my goddamn time.
Pecking and is distracted. One particular woodpecker build, the Toucan, opted to spec into more bulk and an even more powerful beak, which, while less useful for attacking insects through the wood, is still extremely powerful for PvP. All in all, interesting strategy. By no means flawless, but definitely has some solid strengths. So, I know I've been pretty hard on flightless birds up until now, so you might be surprised to see me rate penguins as upper mid-tier rather than low tier.
Dude, penguins
The
are
difference
low-key
is, penguins actually swap out
trash.
their wings for an arguably equally viable alternative, flippers, which essentially allow them to fly through the water with incredible agility.
If I were like a seal or something, I would see these as little chicken nuggets. Like, like they're just little chicken nuggets. What defense do they have? They can't swim that well, like in the grand scheme of things. Like a seal could swim faster, a whale could swim faster. Like, you guys are so useless. Like, you live in numbers. and hope that predators don't come and that you can go on land. Like Tirzu, like I'm gonna be real with you, Tirzu. Why are you making the worst tier list or animal tier list on YouTube now? I used to be a fan of you, and now you're producing trash content, bro? Like, really? Like, I can't deal with this, man. You used to produce such good content, and now you're telling me this. You're telling me pigeons are D tier, and that fucking penguins are C tier? Are you kidding? Is it C or B? I actually don't know. I can't remember. But still, you're a joke now, Tirzu. You need to retire. Retire from YouTube right now.
This gives them a downright broken matchup against fish. However, this strategy is pretty much only viable on servers where there are no land-based predators that penguins would still need to worry about. So if for whatever reason a few polar bears ever spawn in the Antarctic server, it's kind of game over for that entire build. The predators they have to contend with in the water are even more dangerous, and while their agility does help them dodge attacks, ultimately it's still a totally one-sided matchup. Their strategy is pretty cool and actually fairly dominant due to limited
the waves
competition.
are going with him. Wait, look.
And while their
I'll
agility
dissect
does
this
help
clip,
them dodge
as with my great bio. Look at this. Okay. So you can obviously see the waves are going this way, and he's a lot smaller of an animal.
ultimately it's still
So with that being said, the waves are going to move him a lot more than the whale.
Agility does help them dodge attacks. Ultimately, it's still a
Like,
totally
that was very
one-sided
obvious.
matchup.
I don't know
The
what
strategy
was
is pretty
thinking,
cool and
putting that
actually
clip in the
fairly
video.
dominant due to limited competition. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the entire Penguin player base collapse if the devs ever add new DLC in the form of an Antarctic land predator, or even if they just buff the land mobility of the leopard seal. Still, top of C tier is a respectable position for a flightless bird. At the bottom of B tier, we have the goose.
Yeah, geese are kind
I've
of
got an
retarded.
entire video dedicated to the goose build, but in short, the goose has solid base stats, including above average hit points. However, its abysmal power stat leads it to rely heavily on intimidation to secure territory. This can be unbelievably effective at times, and it's not uncommon to see top tier predators flee an encounter that they easily could have won. Still, the obvious flaw in this strategy is that if the goose's opponent resists being frightened, the goose will be wide open to a punishing counterattack. In
Yeah, that thing is
the goose's
dead.
weak spot is easily exploitable by intelligent players, so careless aggression tends to be the goose's biggest strength and biggest weakness at the same time. All in all, still a surprisingly effective strategy. The Heron build put a huge amount of evolution points into maxing out the puncture damage it can deal with its beak, and it did so to great success. Herons have one of the highest damage pecks of any bird, and frequently one-hit their targets, even those with scale armor like large fish and juvenile crocodiles. The effectiveness of their piercing attack is amplified by their long neck, which gives their attacks a deceptively long range, giving their strikes an almost cobra-like flash to them. They have downright oppressive matchups against fish, amphibians, and all other small aquatic
Oh, dude,
builds.
rip.
One vulnerability they do have is that
Dude,
their
frogs are they're so bad at life. Like, what can a frog do? They just sit around and hope nobody comes and kill them. Well, that's kind of what I do, but like, still.
flight ability has a lot of startup, making it a
I'm
bit
a
less
human, I can
reliable
do
as an
that.
escape option if they do happen to get ambushed. Still, it's certainly not terrible. Another weakness is that their long neck presents a bit of a weak point, making lunging forward with repeated pecking attacks a bit risky if you get too predictable about it. Good players will be able to punish careless lunges quite hard.
Oh, shit.
In high B tier, we have the Falcon, a raptor build that opts to defeat its opponents
Falcons are
using
really
speed
cool.
and superior maneuvering rather than actual power. Falcons actually have a below average power stat for a raptor, and don't deal particularly high damage in
Can't
close
falcons,
combat.
like, go like
Their talons are pretty
163
small
miles
compared
per
to
hour?
hawks, owls, and eagles, and so instead
wrong
of
about
slashing and
this?
stabbing with their claws, falcons actually punch with their feet to disorient or concuss their target, and then finish the fight with their more powerful beak. In the right situation,
Okay, way faster, 240 miles per hour.
this can deal absolutely massive damage, enough to one-shot a mid-sized target at full HP. The drawback of this strategy is that falcons can only dish out high damage when they have the time to build up speed first. This makes the falcon a pretty poor defender for objective game modes, and means the falcon can struggle to win fights if its
Oh, dude,
first
that's
attack
fucked.
doesn't connect, as follow-up attacks will likely not have the same force built up as the first. Still, the burst damage potential of this build cannot be ignored, so it earns its spot in high B tier. This might seem like an odd inclusion to cap off B tier, but songbirds are a highly efficient build for their size, and do deserve recognition on this tier list. This is a huge group, including finches, starlings, sparrows, wrens.
I was about to say that. I was like, dude, aren't songbirds like a lot of different birds? But I didn't want to sound stupid, even though I have like no viewers. I thought, like, I did not want to get embarrassed in front of myself.
Paradise. And while some are flashier than others, they all have relatively similar stats, with extremely high agility being their core stat. Unlike many of the builds lower on the tier list that have difficulty getting themselves airborne quickly, songbirds have extremely low startup on their flight move, allowing them to reposition themselves easily and quickly. This makes
Dude,
their
that
approach
mantis is
very difficult to
disoriented.
punish, making songbirds excellent
Dude, he doesn't
at
know what's
chipping away
going
at
on.
defensive players, and makes them great at stealing loot from slower builds.
Yoink.
Their safety in numbers strategy can actually be somewhat intimidating and disorienting too, making it rather difficult to attack a party of songbirds mid-flight. While they certainly aren't invincible, having one of the lower HP stats among birds, they're an often overlooked but undoubtedly successful bird build. At the bottom of A tier we have the swan. The swan is essentially a goose that has the power stat to actually back up its attempts to intimidate. The wing attacks that most bird players use do very little damage.
Dude, the mandarin ducks are so cool. That
They
pigeon
aren't
is
very
such a
useful
little
aside from
bastard
pushing other
too.
players around. The swan's wing attack can break bones and concuss foes. Because of this, swans are one of the best builds at controlling important points of interest, as their hyper-aggressive playstyle can result in huge territory gains. Of course, they do.
Dude, if that was that fucking jogger, I'll show you what I would do. I would destroy that goose or that swan. I don't care. They're all the same to me.
Hyper-aggressive playstyle can result in huge territory gains. Of course, they do have the same weaknesses as geese, so targeting the swan
Exactly,
with an
King.
attack can defuse the threat. But this is a bit riskier of a play against a swan than against a goose.
Bro, just stomp
All
on
around,
it.
sturdy defender, definitely A tier. Next in A tier we have the Owl, the Avian faction's premier stealth assassin build. It owes this reputation to its special ability, which allows it to fly completely silently. This makes the Owl's strikes very difficult to defend against, as players just about never see them coming. While not as stacked in the power department as their daytime counterparts, Owls do have quite solid base stats. While they aren't likely to one-shot high HP targets, they do have enough force behind their attacks to be able to defend themselves and their territory, even from powerful enemies. In addition to granting the Owl the Silent Flight perk, the Owl's thick, bushy feathers offer additional defense against attacks, enabling it to stand its ground in important objective defense scenarios. Interestingly, the Silent Flight perk did come at the cost of the waterproof ability that most bird feathers have, meaning that falling into the water or getting caught in a rainstorm can actually disable the Owl's flight ability. A pretty unique weakness, and certainly something that can be played around.
Dude, this scene reminds me of like a Dark Souls
Feathers
boss. Hold up. Dude, this is all of you losers who play Dark Souls, by the way. Dark Souls music. Listen to this. What?
Meaning that falling into the water or getting caught in a
Run, Mal, run!
disable the Owl's flight ability. A pretty unique weakness,
Boom!
and certainly
Like a
something
NASA's Q, he would come down and smack it and kill that owl. That was a pretty good meme.
played around, but interesting nonetheless. In the middle of A tier we have the Eagles and Hawks. Hawks and Eagles follow the same basic strategy, both having tailored their builds to focus on dealing maximum damage with
that's
their
fucked,
talons.
dude.
Hawks are the smaller variants of this group, and because of this they are far more agile. While not as powerful as eagles, their agility enables them to weave through cover better than most birds of prey. This makes them well suited for rushing down players both in open terrain and in dense,
Hold on,
difficult to
squirrel!
navigate terrain like forests. Eagles, in contrast, are much more powerful, but their larger size and wider wingspan prevents them from entering dense forests. Still, in open prairies and mountains,
Holy
eagles
fuck!
can be incredibly effective, dealing absolutely brutal damage with their enormous dagger-like talons. Enough to take down players in higher
KO.
weight classes without even requiring team strategies.
You know, old tier Zoo would have added the KO sound effect, but this new motherfucker who puts pigeons in D tier, even though I'm pretty sure he put humans in S tier, when humans are literally the same exact thing as pigeons. We just became so populated and so advanced that we just can't be touched. Just like pigeons who just breed to infinity. Like, okay, dude. Like, you keep being stupid, but okay.
These are without a doubt some of the strongest bird builds in the game for PvP, and have been for quite some time. At the top of A tier, we have the grappler tank hybrid, the Pelican. The Pelican's main strength is its throat pouch. Grappling enemy players can be a highly effective takedown strategy, but birds struggle with this since they can't use their wings to grab, and since their beaks aren't always the most reliable grappling weapons, sometimes leading to targets escaping. The Pelican's grapple is, in contrast, almost totally inescapable, and works on targets much larger than you might think. While this attack style is most effective against...
I kind of looked away for a second. What happened?
The Pelican's grapple is, in contrast, almost totally inescapable, and works on targets much larger than you might think. While this attack style is most effective against fish, it's quite powerful against other bird, rodent, and amphibian players, although it does have its limitations. This, combined with the Pelican's overall bulk, makes it one of the most difficult birds to take down in single combat, and enables it to stand its ground against even top tiers like canines. So those of you who follow the channel for a while,
just rush
probably
birds.
guess what the top tier birds
They're
are
so
gonna be.
weak if you just
If
put
you
go
can't,
on the
that's
first
probably
foot.
a good indication that you should be subscribed.
Oh, this bird is actually fucking based. This bird is so good.
Those of you wishing the devs could unban the Velociraptor build, look no further than the Secretary bird, as it has
Dude, think about it like this though. Did dinosaurs not have feathers? And at one point, did they evolve into having feathers? Because, like he said, birds are dinosaurs, right? They necessitate that they're dinosaurs, right? So can't you say that some dinosaurs had feathers and that they would look exactly like this? So I'm looking at an actual dinosaur right now?
basically all the same awesome abilities and more. Hunting on foot and in pairs, they prove time and time again that strike abilities and more.
That shit is fucking cool. Go back again. That shit was cool when you see it the third time.
Abilities and more. Hunting on foot and in pairs,
that shit is cool.
Time and time again
that shit is cool.
From the sky is overrated. They can easily defeat other high-tier builds such as the Cobra and Mongoose with their high-damage kicks. Their stomp move has extremely high accuracy, allowing Secretary Bird players to score game-ending headshots with ease.
Boom,
and they
headshot.
do all this without completely sacrificing their flight ability. If they ever find themselves outmatched, which only ever happens against builds in higher weight classes, they can still retreat to the sky or treetops. The fact that this strategy works in Africa, one of the most unforgiving servers of all time, is proof enough to me that this is the optimal raptor. These last two builds are about equally matched, both opting for the same specialization, intelligence. Parrots are an extremely unique build with several powerful abilities, not the least of which is their sonic shriek, which can drive away just about any player who invaded their territory, especially when employed by a coordinated team. In addition, due to their prehensile beak, parrots have the highest dexterity of any bird, putting them among the best users of the tool use ability. And with an extremely high lifespan, if there was any build that could replace humans if humans ever get their intelligence nerfed, I'd bet on the parrot. I made an entire video on parrots if you're interested, but when it comes to intelligence, there's one avian build that arguably outclasses them. Corvids, such as magpies, crows, and ravens, also opt for a high intelligence.
What was that sound?
Corvids, such as magpies, crows, and ravens, also opt for a high intelligence playstyle, but with a far more expansive social aspect to it.
Yeah,
While
crows are
plenty of bird
based.
builds
I think
use
crows are
cooperative
cool.
team strats, the best corvids operate using a network effect, where knowledge is shared with a huge amount of players over vast distances. This knowledge can include useful points of interest, or even blacklists of dangerous areas or players to avoid. But even individually, corvids have a lot going for them. With significantly higher stealth than parrots, corvids are much better at staying out of conflict. Their pointy beaks, while not as useful for tool use, are a much better combat tool for dealing quick damage. It's also more useful for pressuring and poking opponents, or for provoking larger players into battle, so that they can reap the benefits of the aftermath. Corvids are one of the best builds at making use of human-made items, and quickly figure out ways of abusing the system to score quick loot. All in all, corvids are
Okay, no, that's
basically
actually
what you
cool
get
though,
if
how
you
they
gave
drop
monkeys
nuts into
wings.
traffic.
Easily a top-tier build. So there you have it.
Okay, so my conclusion of this video is, first of all, Tirzu, where did it go wrong, man? You used to make such good videos in the past, and now you make this garbage where you're rating like... Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Wrong. All of this is like out of place, and you really need to get in touch with like birds, I think. You need to take a step outside, go look at birds, because I'm telling you right now, pigeons are not D tier. If they were D tier, why are they so populated? If pigeons are so bad, why are they so good, is the real question. Why can a pigeon live, not long, but they can live a good life. A pigeon can live a really good, long life just living beside humans. How is that bad? Tirzu, where did it go wrong, man? Like, I'm calling you out at Tirzu right now. You're fucking dog shit. Your channel went to shit. You need to quit. You need to quit YouTube. You're fucking washed. Get out of here. Okay, moving on.